Hello, everyone, and welcome to this is week 2 of our conflict management, conflict resolution session. And today I want to introduce you to chapters 3 and 4. Chapter 3 is simply entitled The Emergence of Conflict. That makes sense to us. I mean, how does it start, right? What initiates it? And just in the beginning, so this is on page 51, it says under initiates, it says the outbreak of a fight often seems sudden, but it's usually the result of many gradual changes that may have persisted over a long period of time. In the latent stage, or the stages that we don't see it, a conflict that is missing to cause conflict is to be broadly visible and begin to escalate beyond the institutional procedure. So, said shortly, it's very seldom that conflict just happens. I mean, it does, but generally it happens over a period of time. And little things add and it just kind of builds up. So, that's what this chapter is talking about. On page 53, it talks about these preconditions. There's 4 preconditions to conflict. So, you probably want to know these as it relates to the test. The first condition is that members of at least one of the parties to the emerging conflict identifies themselves as an entity separate from the other they've identified as the opponent. So what they've done is when there's conflict, we set it up in our own mind. One party does and says, I'm the good guy, you're the bad guy or girl. And secondly, the members of at least one of the parties must feel that they have a grievance. Someone has done something wrong to me, and therefore I feel slighted. The third condition is at least one of the parties must formulate goal to change another group's behavior. So somebody says, I've been wrong, and this is what I'm going to do to change the behavior. And the fourth thing is that members of the aggrieved party must believe that they can indeed bring about the desired change of the antagonist or the one that they feel has caused them this harm. So those are the 4 preconditions in which conflict manifests itself. Very good reading there. I want to go to, so this is on page 56. So hopefully by now you do have your books. And it's under the internal characteristics and identities. So there's the homogeneity of members. So how well do people get along with each other? Just generally speaking, to be homogeneous with each other, to get along, to like each other. We have shared values, shared religion, those types of things. And then when someone comes from the outside of that, then it automatically sorts to put up barriers. The ease in which people can communicate, clear and stable boundaries, organizational potentials, all of those things are good in terms of having a good basis for a non-conflict environment. But it also begins to talk about relationship development and greed. So based upon all of those homogeneic things, what happens? Either relationships, there are fallouts, people that change or perceive that they're changed. All of those things bring about or can be a source of conflict. And it begins on page 74 with, hey, I'm forming these contentious goals. So individuals, or it could be groups, or in a lot of cases it's countries. They sit back and say, I have this against this country, like Russia and Ukraine. And sometimes unprovoked, or certainly it doesn't, the grievances that they have built up doesn't amount to a fact where it should go to war. And some of the characteristics and goals, the context of those goals, they begin to build this case. On page 81, it talks about adversary relationships. It says the potential conflict, group conflict, may formulate objectives that in some way mimic those of its opponent or develop ones that magnify the differences. So you've probably seen this when people just go and try to find something, to find fault or reason to cause a conflict. Page 83 talks about the redress, believing in the redress or correcting it or whatever the remedy is for it. That's pretty much chapter 3. Chapter 4 get into alternative conflict strategies, and there's a chart in here we want to talk about. I really want you to learn at the end, but we're not going to go there now. It talks about the types of inducements. So we have people that come from a homogeneous environment, then relationships or something happens, or people build up something in their own heads, and now they're inducing conflict. Sirs here, the first one on page 90, the coercive inducements. So that's where people just generally go out of their way to pick on you, or don't cross this line, or push you, or say something that they know would irritate you. It's very coercive. They're getting you into the position to fight. It talks about the rewards as an inducements, positive things. That's kind of hard, but there's persuasive inducements where people, it says, are efforts to influence an opponent by normative arguments, factual information, or appeals designed to alter the other side's feelings or perception of the conflict. You've seen that in people. You could go down this road where it looks like you're agreeing with something, and all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, I'm not really agreeing to that. So this is in chapter 4. I want to get us to all reframing, and all of that is good reading, but I want to get us to this chart because this is not the last time you're going to see this chart, not just in this class, but in other classes, I am sure. So this is on page 115, and it's called Alternative Conflict Strategies. And it looks at two axes. So the y-axis have assertiveness. How concerned is the person for oneself? And the y-axis is cooperativeness, concern for relationships. So I'm concerned for things for me, but I'm also concerned for you. If I'm high in concern for self and I'm low in concern for you, that means I am a competing or a contending. I just want to win at all costs and don't care if you lose. There's not anything good that can come from that. I say that a little tongue in cheek, but we're really looking for these win-win outcomes. If you go down to the bottom, a low concern for self, a low concern for relationship with others, then I avoid conflict. You've seen people, they avoid conflict like COVID, we all should, but they just really run away from it. 25 years ago, we would teach compromising in conflict. You give a little, I give a little, and we both walk away with something that we can live with. Not necessarily ideal, but it's certainly something that can get us moving. If I'm high in relationship, but I am low in concern for self, then I'm accommodating. So at the end of the day, it's not good for me. It might be good for you, but it's not good for me. And people get tired after a while of not having something representing them. The absolutely best type of strategy is collaborating, and that's problem solving. That's where if we're problem solving hard enough, and you'll hear this term probably, expand the pie, I don't necessarily have to give up anything. So it's like if you and I are just arguing over this pen and who gets to use it, then at this particular time, then we could have an argument because I feel I want to use it now and you feel you want to use it now, and we're not thinking outside of the terms except who gets the pen. And the conversation could possibly get so heated that our relationship might be torn over a stupid pen that we hadn't really thought about, well, when do you want to use the pen? Or if we think about expanding the pie, we would say there's other pens over there, or there's pencils here, or I'm just going to use it for an hour, then you can use it for 2 hours. Well, we both get what we want, but if we get so stuck in who's going to use the pen right now, then we become focused on competing and avoiding and accommodating and not really collaborating or problem solving. So we really look at, that is the only way. Steve Jobs used that a lot when he was alive for Apple, because out of conflict can also come collaboration and creativity and ideas that we never thought about before. That's chapters 3 and 4. We'll see you next time with 5 and 6. Be blessed. Bye-bye.